The Mediterranean sun was setting over the Côte d'Azur, turning the water into a sheet of hammered copper. In the harbor of Saint-Tropez, the super yachts bobbed gently, white fiberglass palaces floating on a sea of excess. Among them, the Imperator stood out, not just for its size, a monstrosity of teak and chrome, but for the security perimeter that surrounded it. It was a floating fortress disguised as a pleasure craft. Standing on the pier, adjusting the strap of her high-heeled sandal, was a woman the world knew as Elena Veron. To the art world, she was a sophisticated consultant based in Zurich, a woman with an eye for Renaissance masters and a client list that read like the Fortune 500. She wore a vintage Yves Saint Laurent gown that cost more than a mid-level sedan, and her jewelry was understated but unmistakably authentic. She looked every inch the European heiress she claimed to be. But Elena Veron did not exist. She was a ghost, a legend meticulously constructed by a team of forgers and psychologists in a basement in Tel Aviv. Her real name was irrelevant. In the field, she was simply Operative Kedem, and she was terrified. Not the shaking, visible terror of a novice, but the cold, hard knot in the stomach that seasoned operatives learn to live with. It was the body's way of saying, "You are walking into the lion's den." Her target was not the owner of the yacht, a boisterous arms dealer named Constantine. Her target was a ghost. Intelligence chatter had identified a man known only as the Architect. Following the systematic elimination of the Black September leadership after 1972, a vacuum had formed. The Architect had stepped in to fill it. He was not a gunman, he was a logistician. He moved money, he procured safe houses, and he was currently orchestrating a new wave of operations against Israeli targets in Europe. "Radio check," she whispered, barely moving her lips. The microphone was embedded in the heavy pearl clasp of her necklace. "Loud and clear, Kedem." A voice crackled in her earpiece, a device so small it sat deep within the ear canal, invisible to the naked eye. The voice belonged to Eitan, her handler, sitting in a surveillance van parked 3 kilometers away, disguised as a floral delivery truck. "You have the invitation?" "In hand," she murmured. Entering the perimeter now. She walked toward the gangway. 2 men in white naval uniforms stood guard. They weren't sailors. They were private military contractors, likely former French legionnaires. Their eyes scanned her, not with appreciation, but with the cold calculation of threat assessment. "Mademoiselle?" the first guard asked, extending a hand. Elena produced the heavy card, embossed with gold leaf. It had taken Mossad 3 months to acquire this. It wasn't forged. It was stolen from a legitimate guest, a minor Italian countess who was currently being delayed by a staged customs issue in Milan. The guard checked the list. Veron, Elena, Zurich. He looked up, his eyes lingering on her purse. "We need to check the bag, mademoiselle." This was the first hurdle. The bag contained a compact, gold-plated cigarette case. Inside the case was not tobacco, but a high-resolution sub-miniature camera and a specialized audio transmitter. If they looked too closely, the operation was over before it began. Elena smiled, a bored, haughty expression that conveyed she was used to being inconvenienced but didn't like it. She handed over the bag. The guard rummaged through it. Lipstick, a mirror, a wallet filled with Swiss francs, and the cigarette case. He weighed the case in his hand. "Heavy," he noted. "Gold tends to be," she quipped, her French accented with a slight German lilt, part of her cover story. "Is there a problem? Constantine is waiting for my opinion on a sculpture." The mention of the host worked. The guard snapped the bag shut and handed it back. "Enjoy the evening, mademoiselle." She stepped onto the teak deck. The music was already thumping, disco bass lines mixing with the clinking of crystal glasses. She was in, but being on board was the easy part. Somewhere on this ship, amidst the champagne and the laughter, was a man who had authorized the deaths of innocent civilians, and tonight, Elena had to find him, confirm his identity, and paint a target on his back. To understand how a woman from a kibbutz in the Negev desert ends up on a billionaire's yacht in France, you have to understand the machinery of the Institute. The recruitment had been subtle. She hadn't been tapped for her physical strength, though she was fit, but for her mind. She possessed a trait the psychologists called compartmentalization. the ability to live two contradictory truths simultaneously without cracking. The training at the academy had been brutal, designed to strip away her former self. They taught her how to follow a target through a crowded bazaar without being seen, how to shake a tail in a subway station, and how to kill if necessary, though lethal force was always a last resort for an intelligence-gathering officer, Katza. But the most intense training was the acting. "You are not pretending to be Elena," her instructor had shouted at her during a grueling 12-hour interrogation simulation. "You are Elena. You dream in German. You count in Swiss francs. You hate spicy food because Elena had an ulcer in 1974. Remember the ulcer?" They built the legend layer by layer. They created a paper trail that went back a decade. Birth certificates in Hamburg, school records in Geneva, bank accounts in Zurich with actual transaction histories. They rented an apartment in Zurich and furnished it with clothes, books, and receipts just in case anyone checked. Elena spent 6 months living there, buying coffee at the local shop, dating a banker who had no idea who she really was, simply to establish a pattern of life. This was the deep cover doctrine. It wasn't about wearing a disguise, it was about becoming the disguise. For this specific mission, the stakes were personal. The architect was believed to be planning something big, a spectacular in intelligence terms. The briefing files showed grainy surveillance photos of the aftermath of his previous logistics work. Bus stations in ruins, cafes destroyed. He was a ghost who dealt in death but kept his own hands clean. "He is paranoid," the briefing officer had told her in Tel Aviv. "He trusts no one. He never sleeps in the same bed 2 nights in a row. He uses no electronic communications that we can intercept. He only conducts business face-to-face in environments he controls. That is why we need you on that boat." The strategy was risky. They were sending her into a denied area, a location where if she was caught, there would be no diplomatic immunity, no rescue team kicking down the door. The Imperator was sovereign territory for the criminals on board. As Elena moved through the crowd on the deck, she reviewed her objectives. Visual confirmation. Confirm that the man on board is indeed the architect. The connection. Identify who he is meeting and why. The intel. Plant a listening device in the private stateroom where the meeting would take place. She took a glass of champagne from a passing waiter, holding it by the stem. She didn't drink. Alcohol dulled the senses, and she needed every neuron firing. She scanned the room. There were arms dealers, corrupt politicians, and high-end escorts. It was a shark's tank in tuxedos. And then she saw him. He didn't look like a monster. He looked like a university professor. He was standing near the railing, wearing a linen suit that was slightly rumpled. He was balding, with wire-rimmed glasses. He was sipping mineral water. This was the banality of evil in its purest form. Target sighted, she whispered into her necklace. Port side near the stern. Linen suit. Copy, Aiton replied. Be careful, Kadam. We are picking up increased radio traffic on the boat's security channel. They are nervous. Elena knew she couldn't just walk up to him. A man like that had layers of protection, visible and invisible. She needed a bridge. She watched him for 20 minutes, observing his interactions. He wasn't mingling. He was waiting. Occasionally, people would approach him, whisper something, and he would nod dismissively. She noticed he was staring at a painting hanging in the main salon, visible through the open glass doors. It was a modernist piece, aggressive splashes of red and black. This was her opening. She moved into the salon, positioning herself next to him, but not facing him. She looked at the painting. It's a forgery, she said, loud enough for him to hear, but soft enough to be a private comment. The man turned slowly. His eyes were cold, dead things behind the glass lenses. Excuse me? The painting, Helena said, turning to face him with a polite smile. It's attributed to Pollock, but the brushwork is too hesitant in the lower quadrant. It's a very good fake, probably Italian late 60s, but it's not authentic. The architect looked at the painting, then at her. And you are an expert? I am Elena Veron. I buy truth for people who have too much money and too little taste. Constantine, she gestured to the host across the room, has excellent taste in weapons, I hear, but his eye for art is lacking. For the first time, a flicker of amusement crossed the man's face. I am Walid, he lied, I know nothing of art. I deal in logistics. Logistics, Elena mused. Moving things from point A to point B, a vital skill. Without logistics, the world stops. Precisely, he said. And what do you move, Miss Varon? I move assets. I ensure that value is preserved. She took a step closer, entering his personal space just enough to signal confidence, not aggression. You seem bored, Walid. A man of logistics usually prefers order. This, she waved a hand at the chaotic party, is disorder. Chaos has its uses, he said cryptically. It provides cover. She had hooked him. Not romantically. That was a clumsy tool for a man like this, but intellectually. She had presented herself as a peer, someone who understood the value of authenticity and order. I have a business proposition, she said, lowering her voice. But not here. The noise is distracting. He studied her. She could feel him dissecting her legend, looking for cracks. This was the moment where years of training either held up or crumbled. She maintained eye contact, her heart rate controlled by sheer force of will. I have a meeting shortly, he said, in the stateroom below. Perhaps after. A meeting, she repeated. High stakes? The highest, he said. Then you'll need a clear head. I'll be at the bar. She turned to walk away, a deliberate move to show she wasn't desperate. Wait, he called out. She stopped. My meeting involves acquisitions. Perhaps your eye for fakes would be useful. It was better than she had hoped. He was inviting her in. Or he was walking her into a trap. I charge a consultation fee, she said. I can afford it. He gestured for her to follow. As they walked toward the private elevator that led to the lower decks, Elena tapped her necklace twice. The signal for, I am going deep, going dark. The lower deck of the Imperator was a different world. The noise of the party faded, replaced by the low hum of the engines and the aggressive silence of soundproofed corridors. The air conditioning was colder here. 2 bodyguards stood outside the stateroom door. They were bigger than the ones on the deck, and they weren't hiding the bulges of shoulder holsters under their jackets. Search her, Walid ordered. Elena froze. A physical pat-down could reveal the recorder in her cigarette case. It was designed to look like a lighter mechanism, but a professional would know the difference in density. I do not let strange men touch me, Elena said icily. I am a guest, not a suspect. Security is paramount, Walid said, indifferent. Then you do it, she challenged him. It was a gamble, shaming him into bypassing his own protocol. He looked at her, then at the guards. He waved a hand. Check the bag. Leave the woman. The guard took her purse again. He opened the cigarette case. He flicked the lighter. A small flame erupted. The Mossad engineers had been thorough. The device worked as a lighter, the electronics concealed in the fuel reservoir wall. The guard sniffed it, butane. He closed it and handed it back. Clean. They entered the stateroom. It was an office dominated by a large mahogany table. Seated there were 3 other men. Elena recognized 2 from her study files. One was a Syrian intelligence officer. The other was a known financier for European militant groups. The third man was a stranger, European, nervous, sweating. Gentlemen, Walid said, this is Miss Varon. She is here to ensure we are not being deceived. The men looked confused, but nobody questioned Walid. He sat at the head of the table. Elena took a seat in the corner, crossing her legs, placing the cigarette case on the table in front of her. She accidentally knocked it slightly, angling the tiny pinhole lens toward the group. Proceed, Walid said. The meeting was terrifying. They weren't discussing art. They were discussing shipping routes. The nervous European was a port official from Marseille. The container will bypass customs, the European stammered, but I need the schedule confirmed. If it arrives on the 14th, my shift is secure. If it is late, it will not be late, Walid said softly. The cargo is already in transit, 500 kilos of agricultural fertilizer and the special detonators. Elena's blood ran cold. Agricultural fertilizer, ammonium nitrate. That was enough to level a city block. This wasn't just a supply run. It was a bomb plot. A massive one. She needed to record the shipping numbers. The European slid a manifest across the table. The angle was bad. The camera couldn't see the paper flat on the table. She needed to intervene. "Excuse me," Elena said, standing up. "But looking at this man," she pointed to the European, "I would say he is lying." The room went silent. The European turned pale. "What?" "Look at his hands," Elena said, improvising wildly. "He is shaking. He is not worried about the schedule. He is worried because he has already sold this route to someone else." It was a lie, a pure fabrication designed to create chaos. Walid turned to the European. "Is this true?" "No, no, I swear," the man shouted. "Show me the manifest," Elena demanded, walking to the table. She snatched the paper before anyone could stop her. She pretended to scrutinize it, but in reality, she was holding it up, facing her cigarette case, for 3 long seconds. Click, click, click. The sub-miniature camera took the images. "The dates are inconsistent," she lied. "But perhaps it is just incompetence rather than malice." She tossed the paper back. Walid stared at the European, who was now trembling violently. "We will verify this," Walid said. "If you are lying, you will not leave this boat." Elena had the intel. Now she had to survive the exit. The meeting concluded abruptly. Walid was suspicious of the European, which meant the atmosphere was poisonous. He turned to Elena. "You have a sharp eye," he said, "but you know too much now." This was the danger zone. She had made herself useful, but also a liability. "I know nothing," she said, picking up her cigarette case and slipping it into her bag. "I heard numbers and dates. I am an art dealer, Walid. I don't care about fertilizer. I care about the fee you owe me for saving you from a bad deal." "You are bold," he said. He stood up and walked toward her. "I like bold. Stay for dinner." It wasn't a request. "I would be delighted," she said. "But I need to freshen up. The sea air." "The bathroom is there." He pointed to a door within the suite. "I need my kit from the cloakroom upstairs," she countered. "And I would like a moment to call my bank to ensure your consultation fee clears." He laughed. "Go, but do not leave the ship. My men are watching the gangway." Elena walked out of the stateroom, her back straight. As soon as the door closed, she didn't walk to the elevator. She moved quickly toward the crew access stairwell she had spotted earlier on the schematics. "Eitan," she hissed into the necklace. "I have the manifest. It's a bomb plot, massive scale. Marseille. I need extraction. Now. We can't get to the gangway." Eitan's voice was tense. "They've doubled the guard. You need to go to Plan Bravo." Plan Bravo was wet. Very wet. Elena made her way to the lower aft deck, where the crew stored the diving gear and the smaller tenders. She encountered a crew member, a young man smoking a cigarette. "Hey!" he shouted. "Guests aren't allowed here." Elena didn't hesitate. She stepped into his space, grabbed his wrist, and used a Krav Maga joint manipulation to twist him to his knees. A swift strike to the carotid artery rendered him unconscious. It was clean, non-lethal, and silent. She dragged him behind a stack of life rafts. She kicked off her heels. She stripped off the heavy Yves Saint Laurent gown, revealing a black silk slip underneath. It wasn't tactical gear, but it would have to do. She couldn't take a boat. The noise would alert them. She had to swim. She moved to the edge of the diving platform. The water was dark and looked freezing. The lights of Saint-Tropez twinkled mockingly in the distance, so close yet a mile away. Suddenly, alarms began to ring on the ship. Walid had checked on her. He knew she was gone. "Guest missing. Seal the decks," the PA system blared. Elena clutched the bag with the camera to her chest. She took a breath, stepped off the edge, and plunged into the silent, black water. The cold hit her like a physical blow. She stayed underwater as long as she could, swimming hard away from the hull to avoid the suction of the propellers. When she surfaced, gasping for air, she saw searchlights sweeping the water around the yacht. "Eitan, I'm in the water," she gasped. "Sector 4. "We see the lights," Eitan replied. "Extraction team is inbound. Zodiac boat. Running dark. Look for the IR strobe." She treaded water, the silk slip clinging to her legs, weighing her down. She kicked them off. Survival was more important than modesty. The searchlight swept over her head. missing her by feet. She heard the roar of a tender engine from the yacht. They were launching a pursuit boat. "Hurry," she whispered. Then she heard it, a low thrumming sound. A black rubber Zodiac appeared out of the darkness, effectively invisible until it was right on top of her. Strong hands grabbed her arms and hauled her over the side. "Go, go, go," a voice shouted in Hebrew. The Zodiac spun around, its twin engines roaring to life, creating a massive wake. The pursuit boat from the Imperator turned to follow, but the Mossad boat was faster, a military-grade interceptor designed for exactly this. Elena lay in the bottom of the boat, shivering violently. Someone threw a blanket over her. "The camera?" Eitan asked, looming over her. She reached into the waterproof lining of the bag she had refused to let go of. She pulled out the cigarette case. "It's all there," she said, her teeth chattering. "The target, the shipment, the date." Eitan took it like it was a holy relic. "You did it, Kedem." As they sped back toward the safety of the French coast, leaving the Billionaires party and the shadow of the architect behind, Elena didn't feel like a hero. She felt exhausted. She looked back at the Imperator, a glowing jewel in the night. The party was still going on. The music was still playing. The world had no idea how close it had come to disaster. The safe house was a nondescript villa in the hills above Nice. The windows were shuttered, the lights kept low. The air smelled of stale coffee and ozone from the electronics. Elena sat wrapped in a thick wool blanket, holding a mug of tea with both hands. The adrenaline crash had left her feeling hollow. Across the room, the technical team was developing the film from the sub-miniature camera. "Resolution is good," the tech officer muttered. "I can read the serial numbers." Eaton stood by the developing table. "What do we have?" "It's a shipping manifest for a freighter called the Black Star," the tech said. "Registered in Liberia, carrying a cargo of industrial machinery listed for Beirut, but the offload point is marked as Marseille's Terminal 4. And the date? 3 days from now." Eitan picked up the phone. It was a secure line to the headquarters in Tel Aviv. He spoke in code, but the meaning was clear. The threat was imminent. Elena stared at the wall. The face of Walid, the architect, haunted her. The way he had looked at the painting, identifying chaos as a tool. He wasn't just a logistics man. He was a sociopath who viewed destruction as an administrative task. "What happens to him?" Elena asked softly. Eitan hung up the phone. He turned to her. "The information has been passed to the French Internal Security Service, the DST. They cannot ignore a bomb threat on their own soil. They will intercept the ship." "And Walid?" "He is in international waters," Eitan said. "The French won't touch him there. And we cannot touch him without causing a diplomatic incident that would destroy the agency's standing in Europe." "So he walks away?" Elena's voice rose. "After everything? He just sails away to plan the next one?" Eitan sat down opposite her. "We stopped the bomb, Elena. We saved hundreds of lives. That is the victory." "It's not enough," she said. "As long as the architect is free, he will build again." Eitan looked at her. He saw the fire that had made them recruit her in the first place. "Get some sleep, Kedem. The mission is over." But Elena knew it wasn't. In her mind, the mission didn't end until the target was neutralized. She lay down on the cot, but sleep didn't come. She replayed the conversation in the stateroom. The port official, the Syrian. There was something she had missed. She sat up. "The Syrian," she said aloud. Eitan looked up from his files. "What?" "The Syrian officer at the meeting. He wasn't just an observer. He was wearing a ring, a specific signet ring." "So?" "It was the crest of the Air Force intelligence. But he was dealing with maritime shipping. Why would Air Force be involved in a port delivery?" Eitan frowned. Unless the port is a diversion," Elena said, standing up, the blanket falling away. "The fertilizer isn't for a truck bomb in Marseille. It's for something else, something that flies, or something that arrives by air." Eitan corrected, his eyes widening. "The cargo manifest, did it list the type of machinery?" "Pumps, hydraulic pumps." "Hydraulics? For aircraft?" Eitan ran to the radio. "Get Tel Aviv back on the line. We may be looking at the wrong threat." The intelligence assessment shifted rapidly. The fertilizer was indeed a bomb component, but the target wasn't a city block. The intelligence analysts in Tel Aviv, cross-referencing Elena's new lead, found a correlation. A high-ranking Israeli delegation was scheduled to land at a private airfield near Marseille in 4 days for secret diplomatic talks. The Black Star wasn't delivering a bomb to the city. It was delivering the components to a cell that planned to infiltrate the airport. They aren't going to blow up a building, Eitan said, his face pale. They are going to blow up the runway when the delegation lands. The French DST was already moving on the port, but if the cell was already in place at the airport, intercepting the ship might be too late. The components might have been split up. We need to know who the contact on the ground is, Eitan said. The man Walid was talking to, the nervous European. I can identify him, Elena said. I saw his face clearly. We have a sketch artist en route. No time, Elena said. I know where he lives, or at least where he operates. How? On the manifest, Elena said. There was a stamp, Le Petit Café, Toulon. It was faint, near the bottom, like he used a piece of paper from his own desk as a backing. You want to go to Toulon? Eitan shook his head. Your cover is blown on the ship. Walid knows Elena Varan is a spy. Walid knows, Elena agreed. But the nervous European doesn't. He thinks I'm an art dealer who saved his skin. To him, I'm an ally. It was a reckless plan, going back into the field with a compromised identity, but the clock was ticking. I go alone, Elena said. If I take a team, he'll spook. I need to walk in there, charm him, and get the location of the safe house where they are assembling the device. Eitan looked at her. He knew he should say no, but he also knew she was the only asset who had a face this man trusted. You have 2 hours, Eitan said, and you take a weapon this time. He slid a Beretta 70 across the table. Small, reliable, deadly. Elena checked the magazine, slid it into her waistband, and grabbed a set of car keys. Time to go to work, she said. Toulon was gritty, a naval town with a hard edge, very different from the glitz of Saint-Tropez. Le Petit Café was a dive bar near the docks. Smoke hung heavy in the air. Elena walked in, wearing jeans and a leather jacket she had borrowed from the safe house supplies. She looked less like an heiress and more like a woman on the run. She spotted him in a booth at the back, the European port official. He was drinking brandy with shaking hands. He looked like a man waiting for the executioner. She slid into the booth opposite him. He jumped, spilling the drink. You are the woman from the boat. Keep your voice down, she hissed. Walid sent me. He sent you? The man's eyes darted to the door. To kill me? If he wanted you dead, you'd be dead, Elena lied. He sent me to warn you. The French police are watching the port. The plan has changed. We need to move the assembly site. Move it? The man wiped sweat from his forehead. But the others? They are already setting up at the farmhouse. They are wiring the detonators. Where's the farmhouse? Elena asked, keeping her voice steady. Near the airfield, the old vineyard on Route 7. Good, Elena said. Give me the keys to your car. My vehicle is compromised. My car? Do you want to live? She leaned in. Walid is cleaning house. I am the only reason you are breathing right now. Give me the keys, go to the train station, and disappear. The man fumbled in his pocket and tossed a set of keys on the table. The blue Peugeot outside. Go, she ordered. He scrambled out of the booth and ran out the door. Elena grabbed the keys. She had the location. Route 7, the vineyard. She walked out to the car. As she opened the door, she felt a cold metal circle press against the back of her neck. Hello, Miss Varan, a voice said. It was smooth, cultured, and terrifying. It was Walid. He hadn't stayed on the boat. He had anticipated the loose end. He had followed the nervous European to clean up his own mess, and found her instead. Get in, he said. Elena drove. Walid sat in the passenger seat, the gun trained on her ribs. You are good, Walid admitted. Mossad, you have the arrogance of the Israelis. I'm an art dealer, she said, clutching the steering wheel. Stop it, he sighed. The game is over. You stole the manifest. You swam to safety. And yet here you are. Why? Why come back? To stop you. You can't stop history, Walid said. The attack will happen. The delegation will die. And the message will be sent. What message? That you can kill peacemakers? That there is no peace to be made, he said. Drive to the vineyard. My men are waiting. They will enjoy meeting the woman who tried to fool me. Elena's mind raced. She was driving a beat-up Peugeot. He had a gun. They were on a coastal road, winding cliffs on one side, rock face on the other. She looked at him. He wasn't looking at the road. He was looking at her, gloating. Compartmentalization. Separate the fear from the action. You know, Elena said softly, you were right about the painting. What? It wasn't a fake. I lied. He frowned, confused by the non sequitur. What does that matter? It matters, she said, because deception is all about distraction. Elena slammed her foot on the brake and ripped the steering wheel to the right. The car swerved violently, smashing into the guardrail. The impact threw Walid forward. He hadn't put on his seatbelt. Arrogance again. His head smashed against the dashboard. The gun flew from his hand. The car teetered on the edge of the cliff, metal groaning. Elena, bruised but conscious, scrambled for the loose gun on the floorboard. Walid was groggy, blood streaming from his forehead, but he was reaching for her throat. You witch! He screamed. She grabbed the gun. She didn't hesitate. She fired twice. Walid slumped back, the life fading from his eyes. The architect was dead, not by a planned assassination, but in a dirty, desperate struggle in a compact car on a French roadside. Elena kicked the door open and scrambled out just as the car groaned and shifted. She watched as the vehicle, carrying the body of the mastermind, slid over the edge and crashed onto the rocks below. Elena stood on the side of the road, breathing hard. She checked her own body. Bruised, bleeding, but whole. She checked the time. The cell at the vineyard was still active. She found a payphone at a roadside gas station a mile down the road. She didn't call Eton. She called the emergency number for the French police. There is a terrorist cell at the old vineyard on Route 7, she said in perfect panicked French. They have explosives. They are armed. Send everyone. She hung up and vanished into the night. From a ridge overlooking the vineyard, she watched as the French GIGN, the elite tactical unit, descended on the farmhouse. It was a firefight. Flares lit up the night. Explosions rocked the ground as the terrorists tried to detonate their supply, but the French were too fast. By dawn, the cell was neutralized. The bomb components were secured. The threat to the airport was gone. 3 days later, Elena sat in a cafe in Tel Aviv. She was wearing shorts and a t-shirt. She looked like any other young woman enjoying the sun. Eitan sat down opposite her. He placed a newspaper on the table. The headline read, "Traffic accident in southern France claims life of wealthy businessman." "A tragic accident," Eitan said. "Very tragic," Elena replied, stirring her coffee. "The French are claiming credit for the raid on the vineyard," Eitan said. "They say it was excellent police work." "Let them have the credit," Elena said. "We got the result. And the delegation landed safely this morning," Eitan added. "The peace talks are proceeding." He looked at her. "You disobeyed orders, Kadam. You went back in without backup. You took a risk that should have gotten you killed." "I calculated the odds," she said. "You are reckless," Eitan said. Then he smiled. "But you are the best we have. The director wants to see you." "Not yet," Elena said. She looked out at the street, at the people walking by. Mothers with strollers, old men playing backgammon, young soldiers on leave. They were living their lives, oblivious to the fact that a woman drinking coffee 10 feet away had killed a man with her bare hands and a stolen gun to keep them safe. "I need a vacation," she said. "Somewhere with no boats and no art." Eitan nodded. "Take a week, but don't get comfortable. There is always another name on the list." Elena watched him leave. She touched the spot on her neck where the cold metal of the gun had pressed. It was a phantom sensation now. She was Elena Veron no more. She was Kadem, she was the shield, and the war was never over.